Hello, this is Greg Salyer, President of the Philosophical Research Society, with some thoughts on Winter Solstice 2020. I love the solstices and the equinoxes, but I love winter solstice the most. That is because I love the darkness, and the solstice is the darkest day of the year. Put another way, winter solstice is the shortest day and the longest night of the year for the Northern Hemisphere. If my best friend were here, he would tell you the story of when he once announced that he loved the darkness too, and how I responded that he only played in the darkness while I lived in it. Well, those were darker times, and I no longer live in that darkness. I continue to love the darkness, and so I love the winter solstice. Solstice is a compound word from Latin that means the sun, sol, standing, sistere, still. Ancient astronomers watched this happen on the horizon and drew great meaning from it. Contemporary observers can do so today. I grew up with a view of a mountain in the west, and I can remember even as a child watching the sun's arc flatten and its disk move down the mountain's silhouette until it stopped at solstice. After the winter solstice, the sun's disk began to move in the other direction and higher in the sky. Back then, we had these things called books, and some books were called encyclopedias. So, strange kid that I was, I decided to look up what was happening with my mountain and the sun, and I discovered solstices. I've been enchanted with them ever since. And as president of the Philosophical Research Society in the year 2020, they mean more to me than ever. For a few minutes here on this solstice, I would like to tell you why. For one, darkness teaches. In Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces, the hero reaches the most severe part of her quest in the night sea journey, or the belly of the whale, where darkness rules. The hero loses all contact with the world she knew and the manifestations of herself in that world. And darkness is the best metaphor for such a death, because the tomb recalls the womb, that place where a new self is being born apart from the world of light. And here the hero not only faces her own death, she actually dies to the self that was before. And such is the nature of heroes. Campbell noted that everyone is a hero simply by being born, by emerging from the darkness into the light of the world. And we are heroes still when we pass through the winter solstice and emerge slowly with the light of the sun growing stronger from that day forward. Also, nature's rhythms matter. It was a luxury of my childhood that I had a view of a mountain and a robust experience of nature in the Appalachian mountains and rivers. I lost that as I grew older, and we have lost it increasingly in contemporary culture as we have grown more technological. This phenomenon has been called the disenchantment of nature by thinkers from Schilling to the Frankfurt School to Max Weber. But it need not be abstract, since I think it's something we all feel, even if it is at the edges of our awareness. For example, I think that most of us feel the solstice only peripherally, such as an annoyance at the early sunset. But it's more than that. I remember my first winter in Boston when I got on the commuter rail at 3:30 p.m. after daylight saving time, and it was already dark. And it was cold, and I was depressed. Darkness was growing, and winter was coming. And not long after that dark train ride home, our first snow arrived, and it was 17 inches. Winter comes for us all, in our climate and in our psyches. But light arrives. Nature's rhythms are our rhythms, whether we recognize them or not. And while that first winter in Boston put me in the belly of the whale, spring threw me up into the light. Okay, so that was a little gross, but if you've ever lived in an area of the world where winter is real, unlike here in Los Angeles, spring is an event. The arrival of light and its accompanying warmth changes everything. You emerge from your cloistered existence into growing light, and you shed your clothes like a snake shedding its skin. And I remember my first spring after that first winter, walking my dog along the Merrimack River and people being joyful. Boston people being joyful. It is no wonder that we've expressed these experiences as stories or myths. In ancient Greece, Persephone, daughter of a fertility goddess named Demeter, was abducted by Hades, god of the underworld, and held there during winter, which prevented the seeds from growing. More accurately, however, it prevented the seeds from visibly growing, but they were growing nonetheless, and in spring would emerge bursting with life, new life. And that is the parable of the solstice, if you think about it. Light emerges from darkness, or it loses its luster. Life emerges from death, or it loses its meaning. This play between darkness and light, life and death, is acted out each year on the planet and even more frequently in our lives. On this solstice, and especially this 2020 solstice, I urge you to remember that the darkness you are experiencing is hiding your secret and silent growth. And that is why you can, with me and all who celebrate and love the solstice, love the darkness for the darkness' sake, but also for the coming of light. Thank you.